Number 4 on the OWASP top 10 list is what are called XML external entities. Now, this is also known as an XXE attack. So what is XXE? Well, XXE abuses systems or attacks systems that parse XML input. So what you're going to see here in our example in the next video is that we're going to take XML input and get malicious with it. We're going to upload it into a upload file feature, and it's going to try to parse that XML input, and then we're going to be able to do malicious code with that XML input and get some information out of the system that we're attacking. And this will all make sense here in just a minute. Because of this, we're going to be abusing what's called a system entity. When we talk about XML here in a minute, you'll see what that means and how we can get malicious with it. And lastly, the attacks that we can do include denial of service, local file disclosure, which is what we're going to be doing, remote code execution, and much more. All right, so let's say that I want to write out this XML document, and I just kind of want to cover the basics of XML first, so that way you can understand why this attack is going to work and what we're doing with it exactly. So let's start by writing this out. Up at the top, I'm just going to type this out here, the XML version. And what this is what's called our metadata. Now, you don't always need this, but I always like to include it at the top. So if you go ahead and just follow along, and if you need to pause at any time while I'm typing this out, please feel free. I am going to try to talk slow and type fast. That way you can follow along and have opportunities to catch up. So at the very top, we've declared that this is an XML document. And what we're going to do with that is we're just putting this header here. We're saying, hey, the version's 1.0. Here's our encoding. And then we're going to need to declare what is called a root element. So we have elements, okay? And so we're just going to say gift. In this situation, we're giving out a gift, okay? So here's our root element. And I'm going to do just like this. And if you've ever used HTML before, all you got to do is close off your tags here. So we've got this gift, and then we're going to say /gift to end this element. So up here, we're going to go ahead and just hit a tab. And let's say that we're giving out a gift. And to give out that gift, we're going to need to say, hey, we're going to do 2. And I'm doing this gift idea because if you see at the top, it is December 21st. It's almost 1 a.m. here. So it's really close to Christmas or whatever holiday that you celebrate. So I thought this would be a good idea. So we're going to give this gift to our buddy Frank. We did him dirty in the 80 section. We owned his account. He had bad passwords. So let's give him something nice to say thank you. And we're going to say from, you can go ahead and put your name in here, close off the from, and then we're going to go ahead and just give him an item. So the item I'm going to give him is Pokemon cards, because who doesn't love Pokemon cards, right? So we have the gift, which is our root element. These are what is called our children elements. Okay, so remember that we have root and children. Now let's say we're in a situation where I've got a lot of gifts I want to give, and I don't want to have to type this over and over and over again. Well, then we can use something that's called an entity, which is basically it's like a variable. So let's go ahead and take a look at that entity. So to add an entity, we're going to say something like this. We're going to declare doc type up here, and we're just going to call out gift, and we're going to say entity from heap. And this will make sense in just a second. So go ahead and copy that out. So what I'm going to do here is I'm saying, hey, I have an entity and I want to call that. And when I call that, I want to go ahead and place heap there. So again, like a variable, right? Wherever we call the variable at, it's just going to place this there. So we're going to say from, like this. Okay, so we have ampersand from, and then semicolon, and that calls it. Now, why is this also interesting? What is this doing for us? So a couple things here to point out. this, what we have here, this doc type, is what is called a document type definition. That is a DTD. You will hear that again, DTD. So we are declaring this entity within the DTD here. Now, we have a lot of gifts to give away. We can use from repeatedly, right? Well, let's say we're in a situation, I'm just going to add some spaces in here, where we don't have from, but instead we just had something like Heath, and maybe there was, another person like Amber that I wanted, that the gift was from multiple people, right? So I could say Heath plus Amber, Heath and Amber, Heath / Amber. Well, the thing here is if we had just that in here, that's not going to work out for us. These characters a lot of these are just forbidden characters. So we can put in, alphanumeric, but when it comes to these special characters, it kind of gets funky. And imagine if we wanted a special character like, I don't know, a greater than symbol or less than symbol. What's that going to do to our code? That's going to mess things up. So what we can do is we can use these entities to call things down. So if I put in here and I said Heath and Amber, guess what? That would actually bring down as long as I declared it here and I said from. So not only does it work as a variable, but it allows us to include other items, right? Special characters. And if your mind's spinning, you've got that attack thought process. What does that mean? Well, that means that we can add things in like, I don't know, /, maybe try to grab a file, maybe a colon in there too, something something along the lines of like C/, maybe try to give a file out, right? So let's take a look at something here. I'm going to show you a payload. So let's go out to Google and I'm just going to say Google, and then I'm going to say XXE payloads. Now I do this with a lot of stuff, by the way. You're going to see me do this over and over. I love to just go look up payloads because there's so many things out there and I can't remember everything. So I open up a couple of these. Let's look at the payloads, all the things here, and just kind of scroll through it. And what I'm looking for is the classic XXE. That's what we're after here. So the file system that we're attacking is either going to be Linux or it's going to be Windows. We are after a Linux system. Why? Because we're running on Docker, right? On our Linux system. So we're going to run in Docker on our Linux system, and we're going to attack the etc password. So what we're going to do here is we're just copy this one down. And I'm going to copy this one. And actually, let's copy the second one. This looks more like what we did before. Let's copy the second one. And I'm just going to delete all this out of here. And I'm going to paste this in. So this looks familiar, right? Exactly what we just did. We have our doc type, and we declare an element inside the DTD. Okay? And then we also have an entity of XXE, and we're calling out the system here. So before we were declaring, we were just, saying, hey, it's Heath, entity from Heath, right? Well, here we're adding a little bit extra. We're saying system. And system is a keyword used in an entity to let the parser know that the resource is external and should be stored inside the entity. Okay, so this allows us to put this kind of content here maliciously into it. What also does system do? Well, it allows us to pull data from the system. So what we're trying to do is we're saying, hey, entity XXE system, and then go ahead and pull the etc password file. Let's try that. And then so when we have here, we have our child and we call out foo, or our element that we call out foo, then we're going to say, hey, I want you to go ahead and put in here the XXE, which is going to just be a placeholder for system file etc password. Now, hopefully that all makes sense. In the next video, we're going to go ahead and take this, and we're going to get malicious with this and actually attack the upload and see how this pulls down for us. So let's go ahead and move on to the next video where we actually exploit XXE.